Good evening, Tashana. This is Dolores. This is the video for the third activity of Module 5 and Unit 5. I'm sorry for the delay. I'll be answering several questions. First of all, how effective would I rate my initial planning of the unit? So let's go over to my unit plan. I consider that the overarching goals I set for this unit were appropriate and didn't need that much modification. So if we look, I think they're down here. The SMART goals were fine. I kept them, and most of the activities reflected these specific SMART goals. They were generally age appropriate and very specific. However, what definitely needed a little bit of rethinking, and I think that it's actually good that we had time go by between the moment that we first did this and then the moment that we went back to revisit it with your recommendations, was to mature a little bit the thought, because some things that I hadn't considered at all I could add thanks to your input. So, for example, down here, the students will count how many ingredients a typical American treat has and how many ingredients a typical Spanish treat has, and we'll compare and contrast both results. This is both appropriate in the sense that it's something that they are supposed to be able to learn and master how to do, but also because we're creating cultural competency for the students in also an appropriate way. We're not overloading them with like a million cultures and a million treats. It's just something that's very concrete and real to them, which is the American culture which they're being educated in, and the Spanish culture, which is the one they live in. I think that was an important difference that was added after your input. Also, when we were revising this, we had already started learning about the zones of proximal development. So I was able to include this type of scaffolding in the unit, which I think is rather effective and important. Overall, I think those were the two main changes that I was very satisfied with. There were other ones, but I don't want to take up all the time of the video on this first assignment. So I would say that my initial attempt was effective but incomplete, and that thanks to your feedback and the additional information I had access through the required study between the moment that we did this and the moment that we revised it, I was able to complete a way more effective unit plan. Sorry, I hope you can hear me. I'm a little bit low with a voice. The following question was, what led to the revisions of the lessons plans and unit plans? So I think I partially answered that originally. Most of the revisions that my lessons had were also related to multicultural perspectives and integrating, because all three of my lessons were, apart from the lesson that was specifically about inclusive, about bringing multicultural aspects into it, the other ones didn't really have that. So I really was able to bring that in a harmonious, intentional, and meaningful way, I think, thanks to your feedback. And interestingly enough, the one that was supposed to be all about integration, I kind of missed wait, I'm going to move this a little bit. I don't know if I can so you can see the whole screen. There you go. The one that was specifically about integrating multicultural aspects, I had missed the mark a little bit and went overboard, and I put way too much information and way too many activities and way too many family visiting, which could be kind of distracting for young children, and maybe not that developmentally appropriate. So thanks to your feedback, I was able to bring that down a notch and recreate something and readapt the activities to the new week plan that I had. So instead of having 5 families, I had only 4 families, and instead of talking about a million different things, each family just came with one specific topic. One American family talked about snacks, one American family talked about families, one Spanish family talked about snacks, and one Spanish family talked about homes. And thanks to that small tweak, I was able to adapt the whole program, the whole planning, to something that's more appropriate. The second item that I think all of my lesson plans needed were a little bit of work on the 21st century knowledge and skills. So originally I hadn't even really, in some of my lesson plans, let me look, I think it's this one, I didn't even have all of them. So I completed them afterwards. I had only put how children can learn to use, sorry, I'm going to move my screen over again, how children can learn to use technology. That was my only 21st century skill. And after your feedback, I added sorry, collaboration as well in this one. And in the lesson plan about innovation, I was able to, when I made the lesson plan for the first time, already include all of these elements, because I was aware of the fact that it was really important for me to include this in my lesson plan. So I think that answers that question. What led to my revisions mainly was the lack of multicultural perspectives and the lack of I hadn't put enough information and hadn't planned enough for 21st century skills in my lessons. What insights did I gain from the lesson planning process and teaching a lesson? Well, I have to say that it was rather interesting, because generally I plan a lesson and it doesn't necessarily go the same way at all, even though I keep it in mind and I try to bring the group back to it. But funnily enough, the lesson that I had planned about teaching students how to sort and count one by one, maybe because it was just a group of 2 kids and they were in their home environment, but it actually turned out fairly similar to what I had planned. So I was really happy about that. Insights that I gained is really just sometimes keep it simple, stupid, as they say. Sometimes I was shooting, I overplanned, and you lose sight of what the essential and enduring learnings you want the children to gain from this. And by overdoing it, you can kind of drown the information out. So I think that's one of the most important insights that I gained from this unit, from the lesson planning process and teaching a lesson. What parts of the unit plan emerged as critical to its implementation? Now, let's go back here to the unit one. The truth is that this is a unit that I haven't been able to implement because it's not a unit that we're working on. So that's a question I can't really answer. Maybe if I were to answer it, but I can't. I just can't really do it because I didn't teach this unit to the students after having planned it. And how did the planning process help you determine how you would know whether the students were meeting objectives, developing an understanding of the content, and attaining the specific expected skills. Really what helped me with that was the SMART goals. Keeping the SMART goals always in mind, knowing what they were supposed to be able to do, how many of them were supposed to be able to do it, and how I was going to assess them was really paramount to me being able to determine if the students met the objectives or not. I hope I've answered all the questions. I'm sorry about question number 4. What parts of the unit plan emerged as critical to its implementation? Maybe I didn't understand the question properly, and in that case, I would re-edit and resubmit this video. Thank you for listening, and have a nice weekend.